Hi guys, welcome back to Live Like Lo. This is Lo, and today we're going to be talking about how you can plant sit. And I don't mean babysitting. I mean talking to the spirits of plants. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Welcome back. Here we are. And so today we're going to be talking about plant sitting. Why did I decide to do this topic is because I was trying to think like, guys, sometimes I just be like, I don't know what to talk about on the YouTube channel. And then poof, Spirit's like, talk about this. And I was learning about it in a course that I took maybe about six or 7 months ago. And so I figured I've done it. And now it's kind of a regular thing that is easy, a skill that I have created and, manifested in my life that works. And so let me tell you about it. Okay. And I will leave all cons for the end. If any of you would like to know them, please stay tuned. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is why should you want to talk to plants? I mean, you could look absolutely incredibly crazy, talking to a plant. Besides the euphemism that making words and talking to plants, well, it makes them grow. Okay. So if you are, interested and, not caring about looking crazy, let's move on to the points, okay? Yes. So the first thing that I would like to say is plants have consciousness, okay? And I feel like this needs to be said first so that we can kind of break down this, what do I like to call it? Human superiority complex, okay? So basically how I want to make this sound blah 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 is this, and stick with me for a second. Plants do not operate on masculine intellect, okay? They operate on divine feminine energy, and this is just a way to help you understand, okay? But they operate in a place of consciousness. Okay, they perceive energy and they perceive intention. They also perceive, you guessed it, thoughts. Yes, your thought forms. Okay, and they have emotional distresses, reactions, and chemical responses to these things, right? So now that we've done that, I'm going to take you through a little bit of gruesomeness, just to like whack your head over the side with it. And then we'll just take the other parts, okay? Because I love breaking brains and mindsets because it's good for you. Okay, so just thinking about it like this, when you have a cut piece of, let's say, romaine lettuce, because romaine lettuce usually comes with a thing that you can pretty much like create roots out of and regrow, right? So you have this head of romaine lettuce that you bought from the store and it's living its best life the best way it can when you put it on the chopping board and you think the thought, I'm going to cut this up and make a salad, right? Instantly that plant understands what you said and it has an anxiety like response, a fear like response, and it releases chemicals into that leaf, plant, whatever, through its veins and its response systems, like said this thing, okay? And I don't remember the guy's name, but there was a guy who did some really crazy stuff, but ultimately he decided to science and he decided to science. Okay, anyway, so he put a lie detector test on plants and you guessed it. You guessed it. Yeah. So, figured out plants have emotions, emotional response, have consciousness, blah, 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 blah. Right? So, there it is. There's your explanation. All right. So, like I said, plants can understand the energetic shifts, the consciousness shifts, and the thought forms, because all of those things are non-tangible. They're all exist within your energy body. Okay? Now, plants react with a chemical and energetic emotional response to these shifts that they perceive within their environment. And literally, humans aren't the only ones that do this. I mean, there are animals that eat plants. There are circumstances that freak plants out that are happening in, their set environment, et cetera, et cetera. So now, plants, now to the next point, which is point 2, right, of why to talk to plants, is connecting to the plant spirit. That shit is just cool as fuck. But you're going to learn how to connect to these elemental energies, this earth energy of a plant, right? So how fucking cool is that? Like don't cap me, okay? How fucking cool is that? You can tap into the spirit of a plant and speak to it fluidly in whatever language it is that you speak, because plants are telepathic and they understand through energy. So they give you messages through energy via your energy to interpretate into your vessel or into your body or your mind or whatever the fuck you intellectually are understanding at what level this information is coming to you, right? And so these are some key points. Here's some key points to go along with that point, okay? Plant spirits can be loud or fucking quiet at a whisper, right? So I'm going to give you two circumstances that will show you like how these can differ. For example, bigger plants such as trees are going to be a lot louder than, say, a dried herb or a peewee plant, like the little cactus, right? Those plants are going to talk. Those plants are going to have a more softer tone and voice than something that is extremely large and have been here for decades and even centuries. Okay? All right. So, and a good example of that for me is that outside my house, when I first started doing this work, well, first of all, I tried to connect to a tree that was currently dying in my house because I was trying to figure out, like, how do I not kill it? But it was already weak, so the voice was, like, way too low for me to really connect with. But I have an oak tree right outside my door on my patio. Like, not on my patio, but, I can talk to it from my patio. And I was talking to the tree, and the tree was like, well, I'm getting the understanding of what's happening. Bring the tree outside. Now, this tree is a tropical tree. It's not supposed to be outside, but I brought it outside. And then the oak tree was like, leave it here for 2 days. It's not going to rain until the end of the week. So leave it here for a few days. Bring it in the house when it rains. And then it's going to be sunny next week. Repot him next week. Do not water him until that time. So I was like, okay. And then after a little bit, the tree dried out. And I replanted the tree into a new container. Then he told me, okay, so this is what you're going to do. You're going to water this tree 1 day a week. So you're going to water the tree 1 day a week, and it's going to come back to life. After that, you're going to have to talk to it to figure out when it wants to be fertilized. And I was like, okay, I can handle that. So I was able to revive my tree because it was dying. If anybody knows about fickle leaf figs, they are fucking fickle, okay? But you have to really learn the personality of the types of plants and the plant itself in order to really take care of it. And so now that tree is alive, thriving, putting out plenty of leaves. And now it's not as loud as, say, the tree outside, because that tree I can hear from inside my kitchen, inside my home, and will tell me to come outside because it wants to talk. Versus, like, say, for example, the tree inside, I would have to be in the kitchen or within a certain area of that plant to hear it talking to me. You know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? Okay. So, this pretty much this thing I'm about to explain to you guys, this technique, you're going to have to do a consistent meditation practice or already have a consistent meditation practice for this to work the best, okay? Now, if you don't have one, you can still try this. It's just going to be harder a little bit because you're going to have to constantly be trying to silence your thoughts and silence your ego in order to hear the plant, which doesn't really work. It doesn't really work. But it makes it very frustrating. So if you don't have a solid meditation practice, I encourage you before doing this to do maybe like a 5 or 10 minute meditation at the least, okay? Before trying this exercise. That way your mind is already kind of at a baseline where there's not a lot of noise, because plants' voices can be a little fickle depending on, you know, the plant that you decide to work with, okay? So releasing, and then my third point before we begin learning about these exercises and how you can use these ideas that I'm about to tell you, is releasing the idea that humans are the only intelligent beings. Releasing the idea of human superiority. Releasing the idea that humans are the only beings in this world that can feel and think and love and conversate. Blah, 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 blah. And just understand that every species has its way of communicating, has its way of love, has its way of compassion, has its own versions of intellect. Whether they are on the same dimensional frequency as us, at a lower dimensional frequency, or at a higher dimensional frequency, that does not matter at this current point. Just release the separation, okay? Because in order for you to make this work for you, the separation is going to have to be resolved and dissolved, okay? All right. So now we're going to move on to step 2, which is the techniques. And I've got this kind of separated into 2 sneak links because, just work with me here. One is the meditation, which I'm going to tell you exactly how to do the meditation. But the techniques are in which way and how you would use the meditation depending on what you're trying to do. I really hope this makes sense because it made sense to me, and this is the only way I can explain it to you, so good luck. So first, what we're going to talk about is setting an intention with your plant. The first one I would like to talk about, because it's the most obvious and most people are probably known of this. If you're kind of here, you've probably done this before, so this is going to work out, okay? So ceremony, when you're doing medicine ceremony with a plant or an herb, to have an existential experience or a otherworldly experience or an eye-opening experience, you have to set an intention with the plant, right? So I would just say, if you are doing this alone or in a group where you're not necessarily, I would say, you know, at a retreat or something like that, you don't have, you know, that kind of thing, and you're just kind of doing it with friends or by yourself for some enlightenment opportunity, this is what I would say to you. Take the meditation that I'm going to give you in part 2 of this and receive the intention. So you need to figure out what is the intended experience that you want. You don't have to try to visualize or manifest some bullshit experience, right? You want to just say, I want to have a great eye-opening experience. Or if you have a fucking problem, right? I want to understand why I can't overcome said trauma. I want to understand what is blocking me from my success. I want to see why I am stuck in this particular place in my life right now. That is kind of like the type of intention you'd be setting with this plant. That there is just writing it down, figuring out what you want to set, and then in the meditation, you're going to speak to the plant spirit and set the intention based on, okay, because you have your intention. And then now the plant is going to look at you and say, okay, but I think you'd get more of an answer if you direct your attention this way. Or I also think maybe looking at this, so that when you set your intention, you're setting your intention in a full scope, not just from this is what I need to happen, but also from a feminine perspective of growth and of lifestyle. Because just by meditating with the plant spirit, you're going to gain insight. But when you ingest that plant as medicine, now you're going to have an experience that comes with even more insight into your set intention that you set in the meditation with the spirit of the plant. I hope that makes sense. Okay, most people, I will tell you, will hold the plant and just be like, I would like to have said experience, blah, blah, blah. And that's enough to put your energy on the plant for the plant to accept the intention. But this is just a really cool way to develop a relationship with the spirit of that plant, and to also just practice this plant sitting thing, but it also makes your intention a lot stronger and you get a lot more results. Okay, so spells is my second. A lot of people use herbs in spells and rituals, incantations, and that includes, guys, morning cup of tea. That includes cooking. That includes, like, literally, guys, everything is a spell. Everything is a ritual. Like, we all know. I don't know why we gotta delineate things, but here we are. So moving on. So spells, right? So these are, I'm gonna have 1 and 2. So I'm gonna start with 2 because there's less points, right? So what you wanna do, right? Sitting with a live or dried plant, right? Because not everybody has access to the live plant, like say, if you have a mushroom or if you have an herb that's not available in your area, but you do have said thing, right? So this is kind of like the shkablook I'm gonna give you, okay? So if you're sitting with a live plant, sit next to it. If you're sitting with a dried plant, it's important that you experience it by the senses, right? But basically what you're gonna do is charge the plant material with your intended intention as a blessing written by you, aka a spell. Okay? If you do these often enough, it would be wise to come up with a template for these blessings. Now, this is just a side note for me, but anytime that you're setting an intention and you're doing it as a spell, you can either create like all of the herbs that you want as one thing in a pot, and imagine that you're sitting in the middle of a circle and all the plant spirits of all the plant material that you use inside of this spell are all sitting around you, and you're receiving messages from each one that pertains to how to do the working. You can do that. Or you can do each plant individually, okay? The more attention to detail you get, the stronger the empowerment of the intention, which you will create into a blessing after your sitting, will be for whatever working you're doing, okay? So set intention to speak to the spirit. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna sit next to the plant or the dried material, and you're going to just calm yourself. You're gonna go into meditation, and you're going to ask the plant, will it consent, right, to working with you? And then through that, as a practitioner, you will tell them, okay, this is my intention. Intention is this. And then they're going to either say, I can help you with this working. I can only help in this way with this working. Or I would be better paired with this herb in this working, or this crystal, or this deity, or this whatever. Or they're going to say, no, I am not the right herb for this spell that you are looking for or looking to do. So this is a great way in really sitting with your plants, sitting with your herbs, learning herbs. If you are a green witch like me, then that might be something that you would be interested in. Okay. Here are some expert level tips. As an experienced practitioner, you could do multiple plants at a time, like I said before. And that would be optimal for cultivating a consistent, quick, and easy working. But you would have to do this a lot regularly and more consistently to make it work just super quick, okay? And having a consistent meditation practice, I can't emphasize this enough. And then 2 tip is additional tips, okay? You can ask any energies or deities to be present that will also give their 2 cents on how to make that working as optimal as possible. So for an example, if I'm doing a ritual for the full moon and I'm doing a cleansing ritual, but I also want to do a success ritual, and I want to remove anything that isn't, that is blocking me from obtaining success, but there's also, but I also want to remove anything from my life that is hindering me in any way from just taking that full step forward in my life in general and not just in a particular perspective. Then I would invite the deity that I'm wishing to work with, the spirit of the herb I am wishing to work, or the spirit of the plant I'm willing to work with, any angels, any guides, any ancestors, okay? Any spirit that I currently work with that would be involved in this working, and I would like to bring them in to this meditation practice for this particular ritual or spell and speak to them and then ask them, how should I formulate this for the most optimal effect? Okay? And this is how you get results. I'm gonna do a different video, guys, on how I closed on my house back in the middle of the pandemic. And it was the most smoothest house closing ever, okay? And this is exactly how I did it. Like literally, this is what I did. I put all the plants together. I put all the goosh gablash together before I did the spell. I sat in meditation and spirit was like, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. My ancestors were like, and do this, and do this, and do this, and do this, and then do this. And then other people were like, okay, now buy this, and buy this, and we're gonna take you to the store, and you're gonna get this, and you're gonna get this. And then this is how you're gonna put it together. And then we're gonna bring, oh my God, I just dropped something on the floor. And then you're gonna bring all of this stuff together in this way, and you're going to do it consecutively for these days, and on this moon cycle you're going to do this, and on this you're going to do this, and whatever is going to come up to make that spell the most optimal. I will say, be ready for complexity, and if you don't want complexity, be sure to state that in your intention with the spell. Easily and effortlessly is your friend. Okay, moving on. So now that we have these 2 cents, okay, I'm going to teach you the method of both fresh, garden fresh, and then dried. And I'm going to just give you some tips and tricks on how to make this the best possible, okay?